Hello everybody! Hi, my name is Myloe and today we're looking at something truly beautiful. This is Street Fighter, the miniatures game. The first time I heard about this must have been about 4 years ago when the Kickstarter launched. My older brother had seen Angry Joe's game announcement and quickly pledged the top amount on Kickstarter as he believed they really had what it took to make a good board game out of the Street Fighter franchise. And believe me, he was correct to believe in this project. Fast forward to today, and it's finally come out. Huge thanks to my older brother again for letting me get my hands on this for a video. And without further ado, let's get into my first impressions of the game. Right away, the amount of research, passion, and artistic expression that Joe and the team at Jasco put into the boxes is almost impossible to explain. With every new inch I scanned with my eyes, I was finding tons more things to gush over. The figures were well packed in the plastic, none of the cards were jostled around, and best of all, everything is easy to put back in place once you've taken it out. The figures are incredible. The designs are beautifully executed. The clear swooshy bits that they use look fantastic, especially in the different colors that they used. The details in every motion or pose the characters are doing looks amazing. It's all stunning. I've heard this project had very high standards during development, but I never imagined something of this quality and detail would come out of it. A few of the figures I particularly loved would be Chun-Li, Guy, Sagat, Dan, and Ibuki. There are so many more that I can mention as a favorite as well, but we're gonna have to move on. The figures are only one piece of this whole product after all. Moving on, we have the cards. Let's get out of the way that the art on these cards is actually the best art I've ever seen for Street Fighter. So many good shots of characters performing moves, characters expressing themselves, and characters having scuffles with other characters. Not to mention, all of the art is credited on each card. It isn't quite as specific credit as you might see with Magic the Gathering cards, but there are plenty of different sources from where they got their cards credited. Also on the bottom of the card, you'll see the little first edition print label. Of course, if you didn't get this game on its first printing, you'll have something different here, but it's a pretty cool stamp for being an OG supporter. Each deck comes with a character card as well that isn't meant to be shuffled with all of your action cards. Some of these cards are downright hilarious, like how Cammy likes cats and dislikes everything when she's in a bad mood, or how Sagat dislikes Shoryukens because when Ryu was about to lose to him in a tournament, he desperately used Satsui no Hado, or Killing Intent, Shoryuken to scar his chest. However, more than funny, these cards are all informative as hell. There were so many questions I didn't know I had about certain characters and who they're tied to or where they came from, but this game answers them all with a small paragraph talking about every character's story. I found out Nikali is the personification of Satsui no Hado. He is Killing Intent as a person. He is a man formed purely from the power that Akuma channels in his attacks. That is insane! And I just didn't know that until now. On the other side of these character cards, you can see your movement value, your health total, and your ultra ability. Depending on the ultra, you could have a long-range projectile that gets stronger when used at max range, like Ryu, a long-range projectile that are strongest when you use them at close range, like Dalzim. Maybe you charge forward and deliver a strong melee attack, like Sagat, or you could even have a throw ultra with special properties like Zangief. These ultras really help to make every character you play feel different than the last. More than that, the decks that they have are extremely character personalized as well. For example, fighting Mika or Zangief, you might realize that they've got a lot of throws in their deck and keep your distance to fight from afar. Speaking of these attack cards, let's look over our main types of attacks. Our main three in this rock paper scissors style format are strikes, specials, and projectiles. These generally speak for themselves. Strikes are melee attacks that can sometimes come with a dash as a startup to close a gap. Specials are character dependent wild cards. You might see Bison come from out of nowhere with a huge moving attack or get smashed at point blank range by Akuma. Specials are very good for trying to bait the enemy into thinking you're using a strike or projectile and then catch them slipping. And lastly, projectiles are exactly what you'd expect. They usually have longer range and they can be shot over small objects on the game board. Sometimes though, you'll find a projectile like Cammy's where it's actually just a melee attack with dash 3. Because it's considered a projectile attack though, it acts like one in-game. These are the main three cards that you'll come across, but there are also cards that'll let you throw an opponent, bait the opponent, focus attack, whiff punish, and the list goes on. They really did a good job of getting some good Street Fighter game feel into these cards, but there's something about the cards that we haven't talked about yet, and it's the piece of the puzzle that makes this game feel most like Street Fighter to me. The combo system. You see, every attack has two sets of fight stick buttons. Every card will have different ones lit up on one side or the other, and what you're trying to do is use attacks in an order that the colors will line up side to side. You don't have to match every set perfectly, you just need one color on the meeting sides of each card to match up. This system leads to all sorts of fun combos. In the first game my brother and I played, I chose Ryu and he went with Necalli. I caught him off guard with a close range Hadouken, comboed him into a quick Hadouken, and finished the combo with a fierce Hadouken. This was the biggest combo we'd seen yet, and we were so hyped to see something like that happen so quickly in our first game. It was like turn 3. Last thing I want to talk about while we're on the topic of the cards is the life and meter counters. They're both turning dials, which I think works really well for quick adjustments. And yeah, I haven't talked about it yet, but you can totally build meter in this game. If you have a card with a yellow dice in the top corner instead of a red dice, you have the ability to spend 1 meter and add a dice to that attacking roll. On top of this, there are super cards in the deck that allow you to use 4 meter and super your opponent. And in order to use ultra moves we talked about earlier, it takes your maximum of 8 meter. It might sound like a lot, but you're rolling a lot of dice in this game, and gaining meter is technically as easy as landing on the right die face. Alright, we've talked about the figures, we've talked about the cards, but we haven't talked about who actually made it into this game. I'm sure that's one of the most exciting things for a lot of people, so let's check it out. In the base box for the game you get Vega, Chun-Li, Ryu, Sagat, Zangief, and Ken. All very good staple choices of the series in my opinion, so I'm very happy to see them all here. The second box we have here is the boss box. This is a bonus expansion to the game with 2 characters you can both play as and play against. M. Bison and Akuma both come with a player's deck and a boss deck. They also come with their own life and meter counters fashioned after themselves, which I thought was a nice touch. These life counters have higher numbers for life to fit their respective boss fight scenarios as well. Moving on, we have the Street Fighter V character expansion box. The 4 fighters that are included here are Laura, Necalli, Nash, and Rashid. I think it was really nice that they pulled from the original launch characters here. Laura was my first character in Street Fighter V, and Necalli has always been one of my favorite designs in that game, so I was pretty happy with the inclusions. Our next box is Street Fighter IV. Here we find Cody, Sea Viper, Guy, who was my main in Street Fighter IV, and Juri. Of course you're gonna include Juri. This collection is so sick. Obviously I'm biased to love the Guy inclusion, but I learned so much about everyone in this pack by reading their cards, and it's just really nice to see Street Fighter IV reppin' strong. We're not done yet though, as we still have Street Fighter III Third Strikes box. Included here we have Makoto, Alex, Q, and Ibuki. I'm not the most familiar person with all of the Third Strike characters honestly, but I will say Alex is hilariously brutish, Q is one of the most interesting characters I've come across in the series after reading his lore, and Ibuki is also one of my favorites when it comes to playing Street Fighter IV. So yeah, I guess I'm pretty happy with everyone here. It's funny you thought it was over, because we do have one more small box with 4 characters. The Alpha Warrior's Dreams box. Here we have Dan, Sakura, Karen, and Armika. I did think Armika was new to Street Fighter V, so I guess I learned something here. Okay, we've finally finished all of the small boxes, so now we can move on to the gigantic Kickstarter box. This box comes with more than just a few characters, but that's all we're looking at right now, so be patient. Upon opening the box, we can see a large selection of bonus character inclusions. Please note that the Capcom Cup is not a playable character. So we've got Violent Ken, T-Hawk, Balrog, E-Honda, Cammy, Guile, DJ, Evil Ryu, and Goken, who actually has a bonus boss deck and a health counter. Underneath all the middle stuff, we also have Blanca, Dalzim, Fei Long, and a bonus Cammy dressed as Bison and emitting the same psycho energy that he does. She doesn't come with a deck of her own, so we deduced that she can basically just use Cammy's deck or Bison's as a bonus figure for either case. I'm not sure how canon this is, but we read up on something and apparently Cammy is like a perfect clone of Bison in a female form. I won't get into that too much here, but it's kinda cool to think about. I like that she was included in the bonus box. Figures, cards, characters. Oh, right, the maps in this game are very cool. The base box comes with one 2-sided map of the Air Force and a dojo, and the boss box comes with a shrine-looking forest map and a midtown close quarters map. In the Kickstarter box, we've got the pier and the rooftop from Street Fighter 2. Past this, we actually have a bonus game map where any number of people can compete to beat up the car more than anyone else. All 4 of the big maps have instructions for how to place the obstacles, or you can just place them yourself and have fun with it. Technically, if you're really creative, there's no limit to how you can set up the playfield every time you start a new game. What if you get tired of the old 1v1? Well, we've got the perfect solution for you. In the manual of the base game, there are rules set up for all sorts of fun game modes that you can set up to play. We've got boss fights, 2D stage battles, and car fights as previously mentioned, We've got team fights, 2v2s, 3v3s, 2v2v2s, you name it. We got 6-player free-for-all, which is technically only limited by how many life counters you own. You could have as many players as you want. We've got the power-up mode, which can essentially be used during any other mode by placing the special tiles on the map and triggering the special effects when they're landed on. We've got tag team fighter mode, where you can 1v1 with multiple characters each, or fight 2v2 where only one person can play at a time until you utilize the unique switch out mechanic. And finally, we have a list of variants to all of this at the end of the manual. Even if you only bought the base box with 6 characters and 2 maps it comes with, you could get nearly infinite numbers of experiences out of this game. Well guys, that's it. This video was so much fun for me to make because there's almost no game series that I care about more than Street Fighter. It got me into fighting games, and it was one of the first video game universes that I really liked the characters from. Needless to say, it's been a big part of my life, and this board game does it at 100% justice. Aside from all the game modes and custom variants, we just started coming up with home rules after a while. Maybe we play a game where rocks don't break and they just hurt you when you get thrown into them and move back. Or what if the trees took more than one collision to break so you could get more damage in your combos in a good situation? This game has infinite possibilities, and is a huge love letter to anyone who's ever loved Street Fighter. The quality of everything is so good, I could just talk about it for hours and I'd sound like a broken record. Gigantic thank you to Angry Joe and Jasco Games for making this project into something that really glows in the heart of a Street Fighter fan.